Look at this. On one side, you have the legend, the device that defined a generation, the Nintendo Game Boy. On the other, this. This is a ModRetro Chromatic. It looks familiar, but it feels premium. For decades, we've been chasing the perfect retro handhelds. We've had emulators, we've had mods, we've had pop devices that could play everything under the sun. But what if the goal wasn't to play everything? What if the goal was just to perfect one thing? To take the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color experience, respect its limitations, and elevate it to a build quality and screen that the 90s could only dream of. ModRetro is a company helmed by the Oculus co-founder Palmer Luckey. They didn't just clone the Game Boy, they rebuilt its soul. This isn't just a gaming device, it's a statement. It uses the original cartridges, but everything else, completely different. The shell, the display, and the technology inside has been engineered for the modern retro enthusiast. At around £200, it sits in a very premium category, so it's out of reach for most gamers. But the question is it worth it? Does it truly deliver the ultimate cartridge console experience? Who knows? Today, we're deep diving into the ModRetro Chromatic, going to cover the astounding build quality, controversial yet brilliant display choice, the underlying FPGA technology, and why, despite the competition, this might be the most authentically nostalgic handheld that you can buy. When you first pick up the Chromatic, the difference is immediate and quite profound. It's got a weight to it, which is almost a brick-like density that screams quality. That's because the shell isn't cheap plastic, it's magnesium alloy. This thing built like a tank, and it's also cool to the touch, and it resists creaks and flexing entirely, which is... I wish the original Game Boy was more like that, to be fair. The physical inputs are just as important. The D-pad and buttons have a high-quality durable plastic, often using it in mechanical keyboard keycaps. They feel very responsive, tactile, and incredibly close to the original. Dare I say it? Maybe even better. Crucially, the input latency is reported to be perfect thanks to the hardware design. This is key for playing classics like Tetris or platformers where split-second timing actually matters. ModRetro respected the classic design philosophy by introducing and including retro features, but they also included modern conveniences. You still have the link cable port for trading Pokemon or battling friends, and the infrared receiver for games that use it. But then you look at the bottom and you'll see a USB-C port, which is used for lag-free video out. Fantastic feature for streaming or playing on a larger display. Now for the biggest, most controversial design choice, the power source. The Chromatic uses 3 AA batteries. Yes, you heard that right. In 2025, a premium handheld runs on AA's. Torrin has defended this, stating that it contributes to the authentic, disposable nature of the original handheld and offers longevity in remote situations, which is something I understand, but also would have loved a rechargeable battery pack straight away with it. However, they do sell a rechargeable battery pack, but that's an extra cost. However, you can use rechargeable AA's, which is handy, and it's a deliberate nod to nostalgia, but a potential frustration to a modern user expecting an integrated lithium-ion battery, maybe. The upside, battery life's excellent. Lasts many hours on the AA's. The screen is a real star for sure, the single most biggest upgrade and the most meticulously designed component. Many retro handhelds strap a high-resolution, pixel-dense screen in and use scaling or filters, which is often fine, but ModRetro had a different goal. Pixel-perfect authenticity. The Chromatic features a custom-built 2.56-inch 160 by 144 pixel IPS LCD display. Say that after a few drinks, but why that specific low resolution? That's the exact native resolution of the original Game Boy. This means that every single pixel on a Chromatic is a native game pixel. Zero scrolling, zero interpolation, zero blur. The image is crisp and authentic, and exactly as the game artist intended to look. Unlike the original, the screen is backlit and sunlight readable. This solves the fundamental game-breaking flaw of the original. The colors are vibrant and the contrast is deep. Contrast is deep, and the viewing angles are perfect. You can finally play Tetris out on a sunny afternoon without having to tilt a console audibly like you used to with the old Game Boy. The display is perhaps the console's biggest selling point, which is a stunning one-to-one recreation of the past with clarity of the present. To protect this masterpiece, you have a choice: Gorilla Glass for an excellent scratch and drop resistance, or Sapphire Crystal for near diamond hardness and ultimate scratch protection. Again, this speaks to the premium, no-compromise approach that ModRetro took with this device. The screen isn't just an upgrade, it's an engineering marvel built for a single purpose, making Game Boy and Game Boy Color games look the best that they ever possibly could. Let's talk about what makes this device tick. Unlike software-based emulation that runs on a generic processor, the Chromatic uses FPGA, which is Field Programmable Gate Array technology. For the non-technical audience, think of it this way. Instead of a piece of software trying to pretend to be the Game Boy's hardware, it uses specialized circuitry to replicate the original game's console's components at the hardware level. This means that when you put in a cartridge, the chromatic circuitry board is essentially becoming the original Game Boy or Game Boy Color. This is why the compatibility is flawless and the input latency is non-existent. It's the closest you can get to original hardware without buying a 30-year-old console. And speaking of cartridges, the Chromatic is a pure cartridge console. It's got no SD card slot for loading ROMs, no TV dock unless using the USB-C video out, and no save states or other modern emulator features. ModRetro have intentionally kept the experience focused and authentic. It plays original Game Boy and Game Boy Color cartridges perfect. What's fascinating is ModRetro isn't just relying on nostalgia, they are actively acquiring licenses and publishing new exclusive games on physical cartridges for the Chromatic and by extension original Game Boy and Game Boy Color hardware. When you buy the console, it typically comes bundled with a physical cartridge copy of Tetris, and they have new titles like Rayman and Croc available. This creates a vibrant, ongoing ecosystem, sometimes few other retro consoles attempt doing. They aren't just celebrating the past, they are building a new future for the platform. So, where does a ModRetro Chromatic fit in a crowded market of fantastic retro devices like the Analog Pocket, the Mayo Mini, and a host of others? The Chromatic is not for everyone. If you want a device that plays Game Boy, SNES, or PlayStation 1 games, this is not it. If you want 1,000 digital ROMs on an SD card, this is not it. The Chromatic is a device built for the purist. So the person who still has their original cartridges and wants to play them in a premium chassis with a screen that delivers the graphics exactly as they were designed to, but with modern clarity. It strips away all of the clutter and delivers a singular focused experience. It's a glorious modern Game Boy that elevates the classic handheld using the authentic FPGA tech and generally lavish build quality. My pros are the phenomenal magnesium alloy build, and that display is just beautiful and looks amazing in all environments, including outdoor. Cons for me are the batteries, but I think it's time to purchase some new rechargeable AA's to use in there so I don't have to replace them all of the time. And of course, the other con, which some may have, the price. But it's its own entity, and as a result, can price itself to what it thinks it's worth. Being worthy depends on the buyers too. Ultimately, the ModRetro Chromatic is a premium passion project. It's a console that says, we love the Game Boy, and we believe this experience is worth protecting. If you agree with that statement, and the sight of a Game Boy or Game Boy Color cartridges makes your heart skip a beat still, then the Chromatic is without a doubt the best way to relive that era. Relive. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if the Chromatic is the ultimate way to play the Game Boy, or the lack of another system support is a deal breaker, and of course, price. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel too. It'll help grow the channel massively. I'm going to be doing some other reviews on the Chromatic games that I've got in another video soon. So if you're interested in keeping an eye on the channel to watch those, then that'll be fantastic. But until next time, see ya.